Hello, in previous video we have seen how to work with the single value visualization in Splunk Dashboard Studio framework, right? And there we basically created this for these three different countries, the active cases trend as well, right? And while discussing that, we created this sparkline as well. And also in that video we talked about how to create this radial chart as well. Now at the end of the video, if you remember, we actually give a static color to this particular sparkline, correct? Now the question may arise like what if we want to color this sparkline according to the color of this guy as well, either by the trend or by the major value over here, right? So is there any possibility? Now we have seen over there, like if I just go to edit mode and select any of this visualization over here, from the UI there is no other option to set this sparkline color dynamically here, right? So we need to do basically the change from the backend, obviously from the JSON code. And to do this one, we need to understand the DOS syntax. Now what is DOS? The DOS full form is the dynamic options syntax here. Now if I just go to our dashboard and go to this source code, whenever we did some changes like the color addition or something, right? So if you see the code, corresponding code over there, you will see automatically there are certain dynamic changes, dynamic codes are already added over there. So to just to see this guy's code, what we can do is we can see it from here as well, or better just try to copy the visualization ID and go to the source code and see it. Okay, so here the window is actually pretty small over here, so for small changes this is fine, but if you want to analyze the codes, better go over here and find that visualization ID over here. Okay, and if you see, when we configured the color based trending over here, right? So if you see, it has added this context and this major color editor config, and then based on the value it has the range we have given it over there, right? And it has corresponding color also we choose over there, right? So all these settings it has saved something like this one. So for major value this is the one, and for the trend also this is the one we have set it over there. And if you see these guys, this major color editor config and trend color editor config, they have used it somewhere over here to color the major color, to set the major color and the trend color over here, right? So this is nothing but the DOS, the dynamic options syntax here. Okay, so to set for our sparkline as well, we need to understand this, because currently if you see it, we are only mentioning the static color for our sparkline. So first we will try to understand what is this particular syntax, then it will be very easy to set this up. Okay, now to understand what is dynamic options syntax, we will just try to follow three things. One is we will first try to see what is the main structure, and then two things is in the main structure, what are, if you see it over here, let us first discuss the first thing. So the main structure, if you see, there is a kind of greater than symbol over here, if you see, and then there is a space, and then you can mention your data source. So it could be the searches you are creating from the UI, or it could be the options for the searches. So if I just go over here, and if you see for this visualization, right, the data source, the primary data source is this one, right? So if I just search by this one, we will find a query which is running behind this one, right? So we need to remember, whenever we will be working with DOS, this means this dynamic options syntax, for now we will just mention it as DOS. So whenever we will be working with DOS, we will try to give the key value of the JSON field, whatever we are talking about, the JSON field value over here basically. Okay, so we will see an example where the data source they have used as primary. here, because primary is the key name, so that is referring to this particular guy over here. Okay, let's go back. So that's the data source, first thing we have to give it over here. Now we have lot of selector functions, okay, and then we have lot of formatting functions. Now selector functions is actually pointing to the data which is basically associated with the visualization. So to understand this one, if you see this particular visualization, so this is our data, this is our major value data, right? This is our trend value data, right? And this is our sparkline data over here. So these are the data associated with our visualization. So this actually is the selector functions. Now this comes the second thing. As I talked about, the first thing is we need to understand the main structure. Second thing is where to find stuff. As I said, for data source, we already discussed, like it mainly it will be the primary one, then we will talk about something else. Now selector functions, where to find out? So there is a Splunk documentation thing. Okay, so if you go under object option references, you will find the selector and the formatting functions. There are two things over here. So there could be multiple selector functions over here, because there is a S over here if you see it, and there will be a formatting function over here. So that's the whole structure. The formatting function is basically format this particular data, right? What will be its color, whatever it is, like what will be the sparkline color, what will be the area under the sparkline color, so those stuff. Okay, so to find the selector function and the formatting function, we will come back to this link here. I will give this link in my video description as well, so that you can easily find it out. If you are not, come back to go to Splunk Dashboard Studio documentation. At the end you will find out object options reference, and then there you should be able to find it out. Okay, maybe in future it may change, but for now at least this is the place over here we can find it out. Now if you see, there are very few selector functions for now, and the main things we use is something like this one, like series by name. So what is it? Our search query is returning a lot of field names, right? So in our visualization, specifically, let's say if we talk about in context of the single value visualization, we either generally display the major value, right, or the trend value over here. So that this value comes from a particular field, right? So that field you can pass it over here in this series by name selector function, that so that it will select that particular field values over there. Similarly, if you use this series by type, so there could be lot of different types of field our search may return, right? Either numeric fields or string based field, right? So if you mention, let's say, numeric field, so what will happen? The first field which is having this particular numeric data type, Splunk will select that and use that as our data for which will be associated with our visualization. Similarly for index as well, like when our query is returning columns, right, the first column always has our index 0, the second column is this index 1, like column or field, whatever it is, right? So similarly you can use the by index as well. Now there are other functions like the global max, global mean, that also you can use it over there. We will see a couple of examples as well today. Delta as well, you can use it. Delta means the difference between the last point and the given index over there. Okay, so even you can use the first point and last point. So we will try to come over here and try to read this one whenever we'll be using it. Otherwise let's keep it over here. Similarly, formatting function also, there are three formatting functions currently: range value, match value, and the gradient. It's very easy. Range value means based on range it will be basically coloring it. Match value means based on the field value it will be coloring it, and this is the gradient one, right? So you can basically mention the gradient value over here. So whenever you want to format something based on three different needs, you will be using the corresponding formatting function over here. Okay, let us see an example. So if I just go back over here, so if we understand this particular example here, it will be very much easy to set the color for our sparkline as well based on whatever we need. Okay, so here if you see, they have basically so there is a single value over here with trend and a sparkline here. right? Now in the options, so this is the whole visualization code over here. Now in the options, if you see measure value, so they set the measure value, they set the trend value, and they set the sparkline value as well. Okay, now in Splunk Dashboard Studio framework, so if you see, there are a lot of options where Splunk by default set a particular dynamic option DOS value as well. To find that, you can come back to this particular link here. Okay, I'll give this link as well in my video description. So let's say we are working with the single value, right? So now if we expand this one, you will find for single value whatever properties are available, like the measure value, the trend value. So there is a default dynamic value option as well. Not for all the options they have dynamic value, but for some they have dynamic value option as well. So you can find it over here as well. But let us try to understand this. We will start with the sparkline value, okay? Because here if you see it, this sparkline values, they have used it here and here as well, correct? In the measure value and the trend value as well. So that's why I'm starting with this one over here. So as per our DOS syntax, so this is the greater than sign, then there is a space, and there is a keyword called primary. So as I mentioned, there should be a data source with the primary key value over here, right? So this is the one. So they should have some kind of ds_sales search, which they are using it as a data source over there. That's why they mentioned primary over here, correct? Now after that, they have given this pipe. So as per the syntax over here, this pipe is also important. Now what they have used it, they have used the series by name count, right? So that means in this ds_sales data source, there is a field called count over here. So that's they use for their sparkline values over here. That means this count field, whatever value it is taking up for all the different rows over there, right? So these values, these are all the different count field values over here. So basically this guy is telling me, from this data source, select the count field, and whatever value comes up, you assign to the sparkline values. And the sparkline values are used by Splunk internally to display this sparkline over here, right? So that means these are all my count field values over here. So this is how the dynamic syntax works. Now if you see it, so this guy has a dynamic syntax over here, right? Now I can use this guy in other places as well, just like a variable replacement, right? So if I just talk about measure value, so here what we display basically, so whatever points I have for the count in the measure value, in the single value, the last one I display over here, right? Theoretically. So that is what they have done it over here as well. Select all the sparkline values, okay, and take the last point. If you see it, this is the selector function, right? The last point is coming up from here, returns the last data points in a series, correct? So that is what they have used it over here. If you see it, now this becomes my primary data, this becomes my data source over here, okay? As I said, it could be a search or it could be an options you'll be selecting in your visualizations as well. That could be your data source as well, okay? So from the sparkline value, if I select the last point, so that will become my measure value. So that's why if you see it, for single value, measure value has a default properties, this one as well, the same stuff over here, the sparkline values, last point, and the sparkline values has a default property something like primary, and they have something called series by prioritized type, which is not, I think, available for us to use. So that they use it internally over here, I think, okay? So if I just go by the similar logic, what will be my trend value? So in the trend, what we display? We basically display the last 2 points difference, right? So that's why there is a function called delta over here. So there is a function called delta. If you see it here It basically finds the difference between the last point and the point given in the index here. So index, they have given it as -2 over here, right? So that means this is the point. And if I just go over here, they have mentioned it over here. A negative index can be used indicating an offset from the end of the sequence. So that means -2 means this is the -1 and this is the -2 over here. So these two values difference over here. So that become my trend value, right? Now I can use this trend value anywhere else as well. I can use this measure value anywhere else as well. So at the runtime, basically Splunk will automatically replace this sparkline values with this one, and then they will do it. Even if you want, you can write instead of sparkline values, you can write this whole expression over here as well. So that is also fine. In that case, actually you will get a more fine grained control over there. What will be your measure values and those stuff over there. Okay, so this is how the things work. And if you see in the trend color, actually they have used this trend value over here, whatever they have set it over here, right? So what they have done it over here. So basically this guy will giving me the delta over here. The trend value is nothing but the delta value of last 2 points over here, right? So that value, it will basically, now they have used a formatter function over here. If you see, the range value is nothing but, if we just go over here, this particular guy over here, which is a formatting function. That means it will color based on the range, right? From and to over here. So if you see, there should be something called trend color config over here, which we can see it over here as well, right? So from this one to this one, this color, and this one to this one, this color as well. So this is how the things works over here. Now coming back to our problem. So if I just go back here, and because of the static nature as I discussed before, so let us move it to December 31st before. Probably if they have updated their data, I will try to reindex the data again and see it. Okay, so now we have this sparkline as red color here. Let's say we want to color it based on the measure value, because in that case what will happen is this sparkline should be in green color, this one should be in yellow color, and this one should be in green color as well, correct? So let us do that one. So for that, what I'll do is I will select this guy here. I'll just try to find the visualizations. It will be easier for me to work on from the back end. Okay, so this is my visualization here. I just copied the visualization ID and pasted it over here. So this is the one we want to use our sparkline color, right? We want to use the dynamic option syntax over here. Dynamically we want to change it over here. So whenever in any visualization or any place you want to dynamically show something, you need to use this DOS here in Splunk Dashboard Studio. Okay, so I will delete this one. Now let us think about how we can color this one based on the measure color. As we said, based on the measure value, we want to set this up over here, right? So basically, if we think logically, the sparkline color should be same as whatever color we have for the measure value, right? And we are already setting up something over here for the measure color. So that means we can directly use this expression over here, right? So what we are doing it over here, we have a measure value and we are just selecting, basically coloring that measure value based on this measure value editor config over here. So we have given, like, if you remember from the previous video, for 5 to 15, so less than 5 we have some color, 5 to 15 we have some color, and 15 and above we have some color over there, right? So we can directly use this expression over here for our sparkline color. Similarly, if I just search for other sparkline colors over here, so I can use that expression over here, right? So same expression, because we want to color it based on the measure value here, right? So if I just go back and change it to before December 31st and apply it. Okay, so now let's see how it's changing. And if you see it as we expected, based on the measure value, our sparkline color is changing now over here. Okay, now one interesting thing, let me go back. It just pops in my mind. I can try this. I'll just copy these visualizations. I never tried this one. Now if you see this guy, right, this guy is the value of this guy only. So can we use this guy directly here? Okay, so let us try to see that. Now instead of this one, instead of this whole stuff, I can use this one, major color, right? It should work ideally, because this should be replaced by these guys over here, and so on. So let us see that one. Probably I will do it for the second and third one as well. So let us see. Major color, major color, and here as well, major color. So if I just go back now, again I have to change it. That's the problem with the static data. Date range, and if I just go before December 31st, so let's see whether it is changing. Yes, it is working over here as well. And if you see it, okay, so that is what I said, like the dynamic option syntax is really cool one, because once you have it, you can basically use it as a variable replacement over there, and you can basically use it to create more complex DOS syntax over there as well. Okay, so similarly, so this one we colored it based on the major value. So what if we want to color it based on the trend value? So it will be similar, right? So if I just select this one and go back to the visualization ID again here, so what will happen if I just want to use the trend color, right? So similarly, just like use the major color, if we want to paint it as based on the trend value, we'll be using the trend color, right? So we can either copy this expression or we can use it like this one over here. But you have to remember, you cannot use it without this angle bracket over here. Okay, that is the syntax wise you have to be correct here. Okay, so this is nothing but the dynamic options syntax in Splunk Dashboard Studio. Hopefully this video was helpful. See you in the next video.